Alright, hello. I seem to have at least one viewer, so I decided I wanted to start this video out with actually playing the opening to Cinderella Phenomenon, just because I think it's kind of cool, which requires a little bit of timing because I haven't figured out if there's a way to replay the opening other than just starting the game up, so I just need to get the timing good on this. There we go.
In a monochrome world, broken from the sight through her lonely eyes. It reflects the ocean and stars, but her cry echoes around the simple loss of love in her heart, making this whole fairy tale alive. Mirth and sorrow's tender embrace. This was never meant to happen. Day, the only reason you have to stay. Hear me sing my song and just keep holding on. Cinderella, why don't you stay with me tonight? We will dance until midnight comes and we could run away. Oh, we will never ever be apart. Set aside all your fears, this magic lives inside your heart. I am here, would you wanna stay with me tonight? Follow me, we will run across the bridge of fantasy. Oh, all the pain and sadness that you feel. Believe in me, hold me close, don't ever let me go. Come and stay with me forever. Magic lives so long as I am here.
Alright, I wanted to go through that at least the once with no commentary. Now move my camera back to the front. Right, so I guess I'll start with a little bit of a recap. Although I also wanted to comment, I found out that there is a order that the routes go in if you want to follow the story most from like least spoilers to most spoilers. So I actually have decided that I'm probably going to try to play all 5 routes and do them in the recommended order. So the story so far is that our protagonist, Lucette, and I apologize anyone watching this who's already seen the first chapter, but I think it's useful to give a little bit of context just in case. So, right, sorry for cutting myself off. Our protagonist, Lucette, pictured here, she is the princess of this kingdom that is in a magic fantasy world with witches and fairies alongside humans. There was, a long time ago, there was a big, well, not actually a long time, I think it was 4 years previous, there was a war between the fairies and humans and the witches, but there's a lot more going on with that war than what it seems like on the surface. And anyway, Lucette was raised mostly by her rather emotionally abusive mother, who taught her a lot of bad things, and it kind of led to her lacking in any form of compassion or ability to empathize with others. And there was a witch who is not a bad witch, who has cursed her with what is referred to as the Cinderella curse, which in her case, the specific parameters are that she is cursed so that nobody, except for other cursed people, witches and fairies, will remember that she's the princess of this kingdom until she does 3 good deeds. and the witch, her name is Delora, is not very sympathetic to Lucette, and you can kind of understand why, but like, I am actually fairly sympathetic to Lucette, because even though she starts off kind of awful, it makes a lot of sense as to why she is that way, and I look forward to the story unfolding and hopefully her learning and growing and becoming a better person. So per the route recommendations I received, I'm actually going to be starting with the character of Rod, which I guess that works out because that means I kind of get his route out of the way. Like, I've been told that it's probably fine, but he's not my favorite of the potential love interests. But I'm sure it won't be, like, a bad story, so I will play through his route, and then I think, and I'll check this before I do it, but I think after that is Karma, followed by Rumble, followed by Fritz, followed by Waltz as the final and kind of true ending character. Anyway, sorry for all that intro. Now that that's out of the way, I'll go ahead and get started. So we are picking up from chapter 2. Once this loads, I'll go back so we can see the little title screen for it. And as with before, I will be reading all of the text out loud and voicing the characters. Alright. Wait. I thought that this was... Oh, no. I'm sorry, I'm doing that wrong. Alright, chapter 2. The Decision. Lucette. I don't see why this is necessary. Delora. Of course this is necessary, princess. You work to show you can be useful. Lucette. Silence. For the last half hour, Parfait and Delora have been debating what chores they want to give me. Lucette. Thinking to herself, I cannot believe they are seriously going to make me work, like a commoner. Delora. No freeloaders at the Martin, remember? And you can't pull the princess card anymore now that you're a homeless peasant. Lucette. Being demoted to a homeless peasant is not my fault. Delora. If you really think about it, it was kind of me to demote you. Lucette. Silence. Parfait. Stop teasing her, Delora. Lucette has had a lot thrown at her already. Delora. I'm only speaking the truth. Besides, working to live is the commoner's way of life, but at least it's rewarding. Lucette. Silence. Delora. But if you do nothing, you get nothing. No food, no clothes, no bed. You are no longer a princess, Lucette. Life here at the Martin is comfortable, and you need to work for comfort. Remember that. Lucette. Silence. Delora. What you do is your choice, princess. Lucette. Do I even have a choice? Delora. Not really, no. Hello. Sorry, that is me responding to chat. I'm still kind of trying to get the hang of switching between playing the game and also watching my chat. But hello, nephew. So, Delora says, not really, no. Parfait. Let's see. How about cooking duties? Delora. No way, she'd burn a salad. Lucette. Silence. Parfait. She could be a receptionist? Delora. Then we'd lose all of our customers. Parfait. That's probably true. Lucette. I am right here, you know. Delora. Silence. Parfait. Sorry. Delora. Do you have any useful skills at all? Lucette. Silence. As a princess, I had servants who did everything for me. They cleaned my room, helped me dress. How am I expected to possess skills for things I have never done? Parfait. Aha! Delora. Parfait. I have found the perfect job for our Cinderella. Parfait. Ta-da! She has just produced a broom. Through magic, presumably? Parfait. Lucette will be in charge of sweeping the March End floors. Lucette. What? Delora. Perfect! Even she should be able to do that. Could you, princess? Lucette. I refuse. Parfait. But look, I even put a cute little ribbon on the broom just for you. It's your very own special broom. I mean, admittedly, that is very cute. I like Parfait a lot. She's one of my favorite characters. Delora, I can understand where she's coming from and why she doesn't have a lot of sympathy, because she's been, like, watching Lucette for, like, the past year, and Lucette has not had a lot of sympathy for others, so Delora does not have a lot of sympathy for Lucette, but it's still, like, you say you're trying to help her, but you're not very sympathetic to the cause. Anyway, Lucette, responding to the being told she should sweep the floors, says, "A princess does not clean." Delora. Hard-headed as ever. Don't worry, I have a fix for this. Lucette. Surprise. Suddenly the broom flies into my hands. I am pulled helplessly along as the thing begins to sweep the floors. I try to pull my hands away, but they may as well be glued to the broom. They do not budge. Lucette. What have you done? Delora. You should be thanking me. I'm helping you with your duties. Parfait. Delora, isn't this a little too much? Delora. Oh, nonsense! The princess is learning useful new skills. Mr. Broom will teach her everything she needs to know. If the floor is dirty, Mr. Broom will come to life and start sweeping, and it will not stop until the floors are spotless. Lucette. What? Delora. Come on, Parfait, we've got time for a cup of tea. Parfait. But... Delora. She'll be fine. A little sweeping never killed anyone. Parfait. Silence. Lucette. You are dreadful! Delora. Enjoy your time with Mr. Broom! Lucette. Wait! Thinking to herself. Did they really just leave? Chuck. Hey, slow down! The broom begins to sweep faster. Despite my protests, I am still forced, like a puppet, to sweep the floors with grudging tenacity. Oh my goodness, that's a very cute face! Apparently the broom has a personality. The broom is very proud of itself. I like the broom a lot. This is delightful. Anyway, Lucette. I can barely catch my breath after that. Karma. Princess, Parfait sent me to check... Shuck. How lovely! It's so clean I can see my reflection on the floorboards. I'm impressed. Okay, I am gonna comment this is bothering me because there was in the photo, there was the, like, sparkly floor image, and now they're saying so clean that you can see your reflection. She didn't wax anything, she just swept. Sweeping does not actually get you, like, a shiny floor, unless, I mean, maybe if the floor was lacquered to begin with? Yeah, alright, I'm gonna just assume the floor is lacquered to begin with, and then get over this very nibbly point. Anyway. Lucette. Do not even think about stepping into this room with your dirty shoes. Karma. Goodness, I didn't know princesses could be such terrifying creatures. You are aware that the March End is opening soon, yes? The floor isn't going to stay clean forever. Lucette. Then do not open the March End. Karma. Silence. I do sympathize with you, princess. It's difficult adjusting to the commoner's life. Lucette. What would you know about that? Karma. More than you think. Lucette. What? Karma. Oh, did I let that slip? That was my mistake. Karma just smiles at me, his eyes gleaming with playful mischief. Lucette. Silence. Thinking to herself, he is definitely hiding something. Yeah, I think that was pretty obvious. My hands are red and sore from all the sweeping I have done today. I remember the salve Annis offered me when I first woke up in my room. Surely that will help somewhat. I apply it to my hands and find, to my surprise, that it is very effective. Most of the redness quickly fades, along with the pain. Lucette. Is this what my life will be like if I do not break the curse? Forced to work day in and day out? I cannot let things stay as they are. I must act. I lay down to rest. Tiredness falls upon me like a heavy, suffocating blanket. I close my eyes and feel myself shift into the darkness of sleep. Despite having slept for hours, I am still tired when I wake. I glance back at my hands and remember the salve's effectiveness. Lucette. Whatever Annis gave me really works. I should ask her to make me more. I feel like this is not the last time I will need it. Lucette, thinking to herself. I must act quickly. The sooner I break the curse, the better. The people who offered to help me are all here. Whom should I ask for help? Alright, so last time we had a bunch of the potential love interests offer to help. Since I have decided to do the routes in the recommended order, I'm going to ask Rod for help, because that is the route I am attempting to follow. Rod came to the March End today to discuss something with Parfait. This is just the third time he has visited the tavern since I have been here. I mean, how long has Lucette been here? I don't know. I mean, if she's only been here like a week, then... I mean, actually, that's an interesting question. Like, it's not very clear how long she's been here, so it's not clear how frequently he's stopping by. But the fact that the game used the term just, as in just the third time, means probably it's been a bit longer and he's not coming by that often. Alright. Lucette, thinking to herself, I wonder what he discusses with Parfait. Rod's eyebrows furrow as soon as he sees me enter the room. Parfait. Oh, it seems like the princess has something she would like to speak with you about, Prince Rod. Lucette, thinking to herself, she probably already knows why I'm here. Parfait. Thank you, Prince Rod, for telling me about this. I shall leave you with the princess now. Rod's expression turns grim. He clearly disapproves of me, even just being in the same room as him. As soon as Parfait leaves, he shoots a glare in my direction. Rod. What do you want? Lucette, thinking to herself, all I have done is enter the room and he is already angry. I am still not used to being treated like this by him. Out loud. I am here to ask you about goodness. Rod. You are asking the wrong person, Lucette. Lucette, thinking to herself. Did I make the right choice in choosing to come to him? Rod. I do not intend to help you break your curse, no matter what Lady Parfait says. Lucette. Pardon? Rod. Emmeline and my mother have tried to be kind to you many times, but you only ever responded with disrespect and cruelty. Lucette. Cruelty? You think I have been cruel to them? Rod. How else would you describe your behavior? Lucette, thinking to herself. Why am I suddenly the one at fault? Their coming to the palace made my life miserable. I am the victim here, not them. Or I guess that would have been more like, I am the victim here, not them. Gotta work on the emphasis words. Rod. The others may think you're capable of goodness, but I severely doubt it. I do not wish to work with you, so do not come to me for help. Excuse me. He turns around and begins to walk away, leaving me to stand alone in the room, even angrier than I was before. Lucette, thinking to herself, how dare he treat me like this? I grab his arm and pull him around so that he is facing me. I refuse to let him belittle me like this, especially when I'm making a conscious effort to change. Lucette, what if I can help you break your curse? Will you help me then? Rod fixes me with an icy stare as he pulls away. Rod, I don't intend to break my curse. Lucette, what? Rod shoots me one last glare before he leaves the March End, leaving me to stand there confused. Lucette, thinking to herself, if he does not intend to break his curse, then why is he even here? I stare in horror at the floor. Gravel and sand are embedded between the floorboards. The wood beneath my feet is covered in a thick muck. Oh, it's Broomfriend! Broomfriend is peeking around the corner. Lucette. Silence. Oh no. Broomfriend looks so excited! I love Broomfriend! Oh. Lucette. Stop! Parfait. I never thought I'd see this. The princess is actually sweeping. Jurian. I'd say it's more like the broom is sweeping and the princess is just along for the ride. Garland. Lady Parfait, your orders have arrived. Where should I put them? Parfait. At the back, please. Thank you. I glare at Garland as he begins to move. Lucette. You! Garland. Shock. Lucette. You are dirtying the floor! Garland. Sorry. Garland dashes across the floor with long steps in an attempt to leave as few footprints as possible. Jurian. This was Delora's doing, wasn't it? Parfait. Is it obvious? Jurian. This has witch having fun written all over it. Lucette. I need water. Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Water. Parfait. Wow, completely spotless. Lucette. You are the worst. Broom is making a sad face. I assume Lucette said you are the worst to poor Broom. Parfait. Don't be mad at the Broom Princess. It's only trying to help. Lucette. It is doing nothing but make my life miserable. Witch. Unnamed witch who we do not know the identity of. Lady Parfait, I must speak with you. I look up at the witch that has just entered. She is a regular at the Martin, and according to Parfait and Delora, a good witch. You see, for anyone who has not watched the previous stream, there are good witches and there are bad witches. I mean, I guess that's not shocking, but like... I recommend going back and watching the first stream, or feel free to ask me questions in chat if you have any, but like there is definitely a little bit of a complicated political situation going on in this fantasy world, involving the witches and the fairies and the humans. Anyway, she is a regular at the Martin, and according to Parfait and Delora, a good witch. She orders tea here from time to time. Lucette, thinking to herself, she has mud on her shoes! Witch. Why is she glaring at me like that? Parfait. I believe it's because of your shoes, dear. Lucette. I have just cleaned the floor. Witch. Oh, I am sorry. I'll clean up after myself right away. Lucette. Good. Jurian. Awkward silence. Garland. Also awkward silence. Jurian. The princess is something else. I've never seen a witch so frightened of someone before. Garland. Yeah. The witch hurriedly cleans up the tracks she'd made coming in before going to speak with Parfait. Even though Parfait, Lucette, thinking to herself, even though Parfait says that Delora and this witch are good, I do not trust her judgment. Especially not when she considers Delora, who ruined my life, a good person. I put the broom back in its resting place before double-checking my work. Lucette, thinking to herself, now that I am done, I can continue to work on breaking my curse. Whom should I ask for help today? I don't know if the right choice is, well... I know the order of routes that I'm following. I don't know necessarily how to do well in each of those routes, but... It seems pretty self-evident that if I'm trying to follow Rod's route, I should probably keep picking him even if he is not excited about helping. Alright. I glance over at Rod as he enters the tavern. Lucette, thinking to herself, that was almost perfect timing. Silence. He told me that he does not intend to break his curse, yet here he is again. Rod must sense my eyes on him, because the minute he walks in, he turns to look at me. His expression is as cold and unmoving as always. He pointedly leaves the tavern area and enters the reception. I follow after him. Rod. I told you to find someone else. Lucette. What can I do to make you stop hating me? Rod. What? Lucette. You said that whatever I had done to you or your family was bad. So, if I reverse that, I might get a good deed. Rod. You truly don't understand how goodness works, do you? Lucette. I would not be asking you if I did. Rod closes his eyes and rubs the back of his neck. He looks thoughtful, but also irritated. Lucette. I intend to break my curse as soon as possible, and I will do whatever it takes. And it seems to me that the easiest way to achieve a good deed is to fix the supposedly bad things I have already done. So are you going to help me or not? Rod. Silence. Tell Lady Parfait I will see her another time. I guess that's a not for now. He leaves the room without answering my question. I ball my hands into fists. Lucette thinking to herself, and he calls me the cruel one? A month has passed, and I have yet to complete even one good deed. Not for any lack of trying, though. I've been asking around for advice on how to be a good person and received various answers. This seems like flashbacks to asking people those questions. Waltz. What makes someone good? I'd say being selfless. Annis. I think it's important that you consider another person's feelings. Rod. Patience. That's actually interesting. Having Rod's answer be patience when you have to, like, keep trying and asking him for help has been very unhelpful so far. But I feel like that implies that having the patience to keep trying will probably reflect well on Lucette in his books. So that's good to know. Alright, Rumpel. The ability to soothe even the most broken of hearts. Lucette. Forget I asked. Durian. Bravery. Garland. Loyalty. Karma. You must be beautiful, both on the inside and out. Karma. Beautiful on the inside, yes, but you are not obligated to be beautiful on the outside to be a good person. Just, just saying. And I mean, to be fair, most people are way too hard on themselves about their looks, so they are probably much more beautiful on the outside than they assume, so. If you are watching right now or watching later, I believe in you and you are beautiful on the inside and the outside. And I know that was cheesy and I don't care. Right. Karma. You must be beautiful both on the inside and out. Lucette. Right. Lucette. Silence. Must I be all of those things in order to be good? According to Parfait, I cannot just pretend. It has to come from my heart. I place my hand on my chest and consider the steady pulse of my heartbeat. Out loud. That will not be easy. I close my eyes, thinking of all the possible ways I might be able to break my curse, but in the end, my mind is blank. Lucette. Mother, what am I supposed to do? Lucette, the answer is don't ask your dead mother who taught you really terrible things. It's fine. She hasn't learned that yet. She has not come to understand that her mother taught her very poorly and was a bad person herself. But right, to be fair, her mother taught her to believe that she was the only one, or that her mother was the only one who was actually on her side, and nobody else was on her side. Never anyone who interacted with her would want something from her. And yeah, her mother just taught her a lot of messed up stuff, but it makes sense that being raised that way, she would still default to being like, what would mother do? I just really hope she learns sooner than later that you need to do. Not necessarily literally the opposite of what your mother would do or tell you to do, but pretty darn close. Anyway. A dream? Oh boy, we get another flashback. Yeah, content warning. Her mother's awful, and most of these flashbacks are a little, at best, a little unpleasant, and at worst, downright emotionally abusive. Usually erring on the side of the latter. Anyway, so, flashback time! Lusette's mother. Your personal feelings are nothing but a weakness for others to exploit. That is why you do not show them. You only show them that you are strong. Young Lucette. Yes, mother. Mother. You must not let false kindness deceive you. People will use niceties to trick you into exploiting your weak emotions. But you can trust me, Lucette. I will never hurt you. I will never lie to you. I am all you need. By the way, that's a whole lot of red flags coming from anyone. Red flags all the way down that statement. If anyone is trying to tell you, I am all that you need, I am the only person you can rely on, you can't trust anyone else, that's a big red flag. But, of course, this is a parent teaching their child a bunch of messed up stuff, and so that's a lot harder to untangle. So yeah. Young Lucette. Silence. Mother. I love you, Lucette. Young Lucette. I love you too, Mother. Delora. How are those lessons of yours going? I hope you're not giving anyone a difficult time. Lucette. I am the only one having a difficult time. Parfait. Have you tried pairing up with someone? Lucette. Pairing up? Parfait. Some of the people in the tavern pair up to assist each other. 2 heads are better than 1, as they say. Delora. It's not a bad idea, but the problem is with her. Who's going to volunteer to pair up with the Ice Princess? Lucette. Annoyed silence. Thinking to herself. She has a point. People may not glare at me anymore, but it does not escape me that I am still disliked. Parfait. Most of the boarders at the Marchen volunteered to help her, remember? And I haven't heard any of them retract their offers. Delora. It's only a matter of time. Lucette. Silence. Parfait. Stop it, Delora. It's your choice, Princess. Pairing up is only a suggestion. Lucette. Silence. Thinking to herself. Would pairing up with someone really help me break my curse? What if they end up being an annoyance instead? Annis. Princess? Lucette. Silence. Annis. Excuse me, Princess? Lucette. Shock. Annis. I'm sorry for disturbing you, but you've just been staring at your tray and the customer is waiting for his order. Lucette. Of course. Delora has me helping Annis today. The Marchen is unexpectedly busy and they cannot keep up with all the customers. Delora. Stop daydreaming, Lucette. Food doesn't deliver itself. Lucette. I do not need you to tell me that. Delora. Silence. I stretch out on my bed. The stiff mattress does little to soothe my aching muscles. I was on my feet the entire day, struggling to keep up with the steady stream of people that came into the Marchen. Lucette. I have never seen the Marchen this busy. I roll on my stomach and bury my face into my pillow. My arms and legs protest the movement. Lucette, thinking to herself. I refuse to live this type of life much longer. I need to break this curse as soon as possible. Parfait. This is her flashing back to Parfait saying, why don't you pair up with someone? Lucette, thinking to herself. Pairing up might not be such a bad idea. Ooh. Oh, fancy! Okay, so I get to actually tell the game which route I'm choosing. This is very cool. I like this selection screen. Yeah. Alright, so as previously discussed, I learned that there is a story order to the routes, and these two are, because they are so spoilery for later story content, they are locked until you've finished at least one of the other routes. So I will be starting with Rod, and then, again, if I recall correctly, it's then Karma, then Rumple, then Fritz, and then finally Waltz. So let's go on to Rod's route, Chapter 3, A Change of Pace. Lucette. I will ask Rod if he will pair up with me. Lucette, thinking to herself, I know we do not have a good relationship. Rod has spared no effort in telling me how cruel I have been to his family. But I feel that rectifying whatever mistakes I made with them might be an easy way to get 3 good deeds. Delora. Oh, this is going to be very interesting. Parfait. But, Lucette, didn't he tell you that he didn't want to break his curse? Lucette. Yes, but that may not be the whole truth. Parfait. He is still reluctant to break his curse despite all the advice I have offered him. Perhaps you will be able to encourage him where I could not. Lucette. I do not care if he does not want to break his curse. I only need him to help me remedy the supposedly bad things I have done to his family. I believe that will be the easiest way to break my curse. But the problem is that I rarely see him here. He is usually at the palace. In order for this arrangement to work, I will need to be in the palace. Delora. I, for one, think that's a terrible idea. What if... Delora's voice trails off. She averts her gaze to the floor, her expression a mixture of anxiety and solemn consideration. Lucette. What if what? Is there something I should know? Both the witch and the fairy just stare at me silently. After a few moments, Parfait speaks. Parfait. You would be far away from us, Princess. We would not be able to assist you. Witches could be lying in wait for you, knowing that you are the true crown princess of Angiel. They might seek to use you for their own purposes. Lucette. What sorts of purposes? Why would the witches be after me in the first place? Parfait. Many of them have been corrupted by the Tenebrarum. Darkness has invaded their hearts, making them bitter. Many of them simply want to see the fairy tale curses continue on undisturbed. This is all just speculation, but it's better to be safe rather than sorry. Lucette. What would you have me do? Delora. Parfait. Delora? Delora. I have an idea. I think I can get her into the palace and make sure that there's someone there to look out for her. Parfait. How? Delora. Just trust me. Tomorrow, the Ice Princess returns to her palace. Lucette. I have a bad feeling about this. Lucette. Silence. This cannot be happening. Maid. Oh, she's a maid. As someone who is very just giving her personality, that's just great. She's gonna do super well with that. And by super well, I mean she's going to struggle a lot, but hopefully it'll be a teaching experience. Maid. Don't dilly-dally. The princess will soon be awake and expecting her new maid. I close my eyes and suppress the urge to groan. Lucette, thinking to herself, how is it that Delora was able to turn me into Emmeline's personal maid? She thought this would be funny, did she? Well, I will make her pay for this. Maid. I expect you not to be late again. We have very strict rules on how the palace staff should behave. I'm not exactly sure how Delora managed this. She told me she was going to cast a spell on me and that it would be over as soon as I opened my eyes. I closed my eyes, and sure enough, when I opened them, I found myself here in a maid uniform. Lucette, thinking to herself, what did she do? The maid continues to babble at me. Lucette, you should be paying attention. Lucette, thinking to herself, how annoying. I pretend to listen to her as she leads me through the palace hallways. Lucette, thinking to herself, Emmeline and Rod's chambers are located here. Emmeline. Oh! We come to a halt when Emmeline suddenly appears from around the corner. Maid. Your Highness. The maid ducks into a neat curtsy. Emmeline's eyes meet mine. I tense as I wait for any signs of recognition from her, but she only gives me a curious look, as if wondering who I am. Lucette, thinking to herself. She clearly does not recognize me. The maid suddenly reaches back and pulls at my shoulder, forcing me into a bow. Maid, you are in front of the Crown Princess of Angel. Show some respect, girl. Maid, my apologies, Your Highness. She is new and clearly needs to be taught some manners. Lucette, excuse me? Emmeline, oh please, there's no need for that. Lucette, thinking to herself, what is she trying to achieve by pretending to be kind to a palace maid? Oh, once again, I am feeling sad for Lucette because, honey, not everybody who is kind is pretending, and I think that is a very basic lesson that Lucette has not yet learned. Lucette continuing to think to herself, who is she trying to fool? And I mean, hopefully that'll be the thing. Emmeline will keep being nice to her, and she'll be like, there's literally no reason for her to be nice to me. And then maybe she'll be like, wait, what if sometimes people are just nice without an ulterior motive? I hope that that is what that thought will eventually occur to her. Maid. Your Highness, this is your new personal maid. Emmeline glances at the maid, looking confused. Emmeline. Why do I need a personal maid? Maid. It is by the king's orders, princess. Emmeline turns to look at me again. Emmeline. What is your name? Lucette. Silence. Maid. She is talking to you, girl. I scowl at the maid before facing Emmeline. Lucette, thinking to herself, I cannot believe I have fallen so low that I am now being ordered around by a maid. Lucette, out loud. Lucette. Emmeline. It's nice to meet you, Lucette. I hope we can get along. Lucette. Silence. When I do not respond, Emmeline's face falls. Emmeline. I was just heading to breakfast with my family. Maid. Of course. Lucette will escort you to the dining hall. I raise my eyebrows at the maid, irritated. Emmeline. There's no need for concern. I can get there on my own. I breathe a sigh of relief. Lucette, thinking to herself, I am not here to babysit her. The maid leans forward and whispers something in my ear. Maid, I don't know how it is that you landed this position, but you owe the royal family your diligence and respect. If you continue to show disrespect, I will be having a word with the king. The maid pushes me forward so that I am forced to stand next to Emmeline. Lucette. Shock. Maid. She will escort you to the dining hall, Your Highness. Her job requires that she follow you everywhere in case you require assistance with anything. Emmeline. But... Maid. It is almost time for breakfast, Princess Emmeline. Emmeline frowns and looks at me. Out loud. I'm so sorry. Lucette, thinking to herself. What is she apologizing for? Emmeline. Good morning. King Gennaro. Good morning. It seems you've met your personal maid. The king's eyes widen as soon as he spots me. King Gennaro. You look familiar. Lucette, thinking to herself. Does he recognize me? Oh, honey, no, he definitely recognizes you from when you tried to, go talk to him outside the palace gates right after you got cursed by maid. I feel a little tremble in my heart as I consider that hope. King Gennaro. Are you not the girl who came to the gates before? I deflate with a soundless sigh. Lucette, thinking to herself. He remembers me as the peasant. King Gennaro. This is the first time I'm meeting you as Emmeline's personal maid. What is your name? Lucette, out loud. Lucette. King Gennaro. That is a lovely name. We are glad to have you here, Lucette. The king gives me a warm smile. The softness of his gaze makes me angry. Lucette, thinking to herself. He never treated me so kindly when he remembered me as his own daughter. Emmeline takes her seat while I walk to stand at the walls beside the other maids and butlers. The door opens and Rod walks inside. He greets the king, Ophelia, and then his sister. He's just about to take his seat when his eyes suddenly fall on me. The shock is apparent on his face. Ophelia. Rod, is something wrong? Rod. I see there's a new maid on staff. His tone is almost accusatory. I bristle at his words and am about to say something when Ophelia speaks. Ophelia. She is Emmeline's new personal maid, Lucette. Rod. Silence. Rod stares at me for a few moments, his expression unreadable. Eventually he moves to take his seat. I stand silent and watch the royal family eat their breakfast. The small area is filled with happy conversation. The four of them smile at each other when they speak, and it is easy to see how comfortable they all are with each other. Lucette, thinking to herself. When I was still here, our meals were always so quiet. But everyone looks so happy now. I bite my lip to will the heavy feeling away. Lucette, thinking to herself. Rod told me that before, but I did not want to believe him. I turn back to the conversation at hand. King Gennaro. We have something very important to discuss with you, Emmeline. Emmeline. Oh? King Gennaro. I have brought this up before, but now the matter is more pressing. Emmeline. Is this about... King Gennaro. Yes, this is about the ball. Ophelia gives the king a disapproving look. Ophelia. Dear. King Gennaro. I know it seems a strange proposition, but this is a royal tradition. Emmeline is at a suitable marrying age, and this ball may yet help her find a suitor. Ophelia. But a husband. Emmeline's cheeks are tinted pink. Lucette, thinking to herself. A royal ball for Emmeline? For her to find a husband? I never would have agreed to such a thing. The king never forced me into one because he knew that. King Gennaro. I will not force you to marry someone you do not love, Emmeline. We agreed on this ball to uphold tradition. All eligible bachelors will be invited in 4 months' time, and you will choose the man you want to court you. I did find my true love through a ball, after all. He glances at Ophelia, who responds with a fond smile. Her expressions fall back into something more worried when she looks at her daughter. Emmeline. But what if I can't choose anyone? King Gennaro. We will throw one ball as per tradition. We will not force you into another ball if you do not find a good suitor, but we must uphold traditions at least once. Perhaps this will push you to think more about the future. I will not put any added pressure on you, Emmeline, but I would be happy to see grandchildren before I have to give up my throne. I'm not getting any younger, you know. Oh my god, I hate it when... Sorry. You know, as... I am actually very, very lucky. Like, I never got much pressure. Like, it was very clear... Sorry, this is not about the game, this is about myself. So, I'm asexual. I'm pretty open about that. And... you know, some asexual people choose to have kids. I am not one of them. I do not want to have my own children at all. It's just not in my life plan. But there are a lot of people, especially people who are asexual and like, you know, and maybe also aromantic, who maybe don't actually even plan to have a partner, much less have children, and like, you know, the societal and family pressure is real for when you're gonna give me those grandkids, and I'm just like, I mean, in this case, maybe it is fine. Like, it's seems probably fair to assume that Emmeline plans to eventually get married and probably have kids, but it's just a thing that I like people to think about, because I think most people would look at that and be like, oh, there's nothing weird about that conversation, and I'm like, maybe don't assume that everybody will want to have children, but it's also more complicated because it's a fantasy world and this is a royal family, but I'm not talking about that. I'm really talking about real life and society and the pressure to fit into societal expectations. Yeah. Alright, little soapbox moment over. Sorry about that. In my defense, it is actually Ace Week. I forgot to mention that, but like, so kind of like a good time to be spreading awareness about stuff like that. Alright, moving on. Emmeline, shock and blushy face. Father! I can tell the king is trying to make light of this situation, but there is an undertone of seriousness. Emmeline eventually sighs, then slowly nods. Emmeline, I understand. My gaze shifts to Rod to search for a reaction, but his expression is impassive. Lucette, thinking to herself, no reaction at all. Did he know this was going to happen? Emmeline, but can I really be the princess the kingdom of Angiel deserves? I feel so unprepared. King Gennaro, you are the crown princess of Angiel. You must be confident. Emmeline looks down, looking genuinely distressed. Emmeline, I'm finished. May I be excused? Ophelia, but sweetheart, you've barely touched your food. King Gennaro, you may. Emmeline stands up and ducks into a quick curtsy before rushing from the room. I do not move until I feel Rod's glare on me. I realize that I am meant to follow Emmeline. Lucette, excuse me. I curtsy and follow after Emmeline. I barely make it a few steps away from the dining hall before the door flies open and Rod is rushing after me. Rod, what are you doing here? Lucette, yeah, I don't have a good sense of how he was going to respond. Can I save the game at this choice? Probably. Let's just, making decisions that I'm not sure how a character will react to. Let's just save so I can undo it if it goes very wrong. I am definitely that type of player where if I make a choice and it is immediately obvious that it was a bad choice, I will go back and fix it, because I'm not really interested in like visual novels, especially like dating sim visual novels. I'm not interested in seeing the bad ends, and will be very sad if I accidentally navigate myself to one. I am very much a sucker for happy endings, and I will always strive to get the happy ending of any route that I try. And I can live with if I get like a neutral ending, but I will always be aiming for the happy ending. Alright, so now I have to guess what I think Rod will respond better to, which is avoiding the question or answering him directly. I feel like I would respond better. I mean, how I would respond is not necessarily going to correspond at all to how a random character is going to, but like, I feel like my instinct would be to answer the question. Lucette, I am here to break my curse. Rod, you expect me to believe that when you had people offering to help you at the Marchen? Rod's expression changes, anger clear in his eyes. No, I know, Rod out loud. No, I know why you were really here. Lucette, what are you talking about? Rod, you thought you might take back what is rightfully yours, didn't you? You have no qualms about hurting my family again. I stare at him, nonplussed by his accusations. I carefully quell the simmering anger inside me. Lucette, thinking to herself, the last thing I want is to be fired before I break my curse. Out loud, I am not here to hurt anyone, so stop accusing me of such things. We glare at each other in silence. I'm gonna say that I remember being told that little thing meant that I had gotten points in their favor, unless the color is wrong, but... No, I'm gonna hope that means that I made a good choice there. Lucette, thinking to herself, I had always thought that Rod was closed off and quiet, but his emotions are always blazing in his eyes. Rod, you shouldn't be here. Rod steps back, but his gaze is still fierce. Lucette, I do not have time for this. I'm going to find Emmeline. Rod, why? So you can insult her? Lucette, no, because it is now my job to attend to her. Excuse me. The last place I expect to find Emmeline is in the throne room. Much to my surprise, I find her standing alone inside, staring up at the throne. Emmeline. Oh. I feel like that was an awful oh. Emmeline. Oh. No, that's not. Alright, so Emmeline said, oh, in surprise when Lucette walked in the door, and I delivered that poorly, and I don't know how to go back and fix that, so we're just gonna move on and pretend that never happened. When she turns to face me, she has a guilty expression on her face. Emmeline. I'm sorry. Lucette, thinking to herself, what is she apologizing for? Emmeline. I was very rude earlier, walking out on everyone at breakfast. Emmeline gazes back at the throne and sighs. Emmeline. I'm sure any other girl would be happy to have a ball. I mean, it's like something out of a fairy tale. But She sighs once again and looks down at her clasped hands. Out loud. It all sounds so perfect in the fairy tales. 3 days is all it takes before everyone's found their true love. But I don't think that's how it works out in real life. Do you? I have nothing to say in response when Emmeline turns her beseeching gaze to me. I, the streamer, have thoughts on that. And that is, in fact, yes, it does usually take more time than that. Like, you know, you might meet someone and start dating them within 3 days of meeting them. That's not necessarily love yet, in my opinion. I'm not saying that love at first sight doesn't exist. I'm saying that love at first sight is not the kind of love that is necessarily going to last, and you need to work at a relationship to get to the point where, like a love at first sight or a love after a very short period of time of knowing someone, I feel like can get to a point where, okay, and then we went on dates and we had this good relationship, and then we built this foundation for our relationship that got us to a place where that love has become something more sustainable. But like, there's actually a term for when you're in the first, like, early stages of a relationship that some people use that's called new relationship energy. And in a, like, solid, stable relationship, usually the new relationship energy will fade away, and as long as you've got, like, a stable foundation, there should still be, like, you know, sort of a calmer sort of affection. And that's normal. So, like, just, I feel like a lot of people don't know this, so sorry for going streamer soapbox again, but, like, you know, life advice. Relationships are things you have to work at, and love that develops in 3 days is not necessarily the same type of love that will develop over the course of a longer term relationship. Yep, alright. Yeah, no, and sorry, responding to chat, it can take several years. I mean, yeah, relationships are something that you have to work on. Yeah. You have to build a solid foundation. So, in fact, I agree wholeheartedly with Emmeline that, like, fairy tale romances are often not terribly realistic because they never get to the part where they show, oh, and then we, like, spent time getting to know each other and, like, you know, had good communication, and then we just built this really wonderful relationship that meant that we were happily ever after. No, they're just like, yep, nope, met, fell in love, happily ever after. That's, yeah, no. Alright, I'm gonna transition back to the game, but yeah, I have many thoughts and opinions on that, and Emmeline, I can sympathize. I can see why it would be stressful. I did actually appreciate when they were telling her about the ball, where it's like, okay, you're just going to pick someone who's going to, like, be allowed to court you, and I'm like, okay, that's actually not a bad approach. So, like, you know, if she does meet someone at the ball that she hits it off with, then she can, you know, continue talking to them, get to know them, and, you know, maybe it'll work out, maybe it won't. But I can totally understand her stress, because certainly the expectation will be that whoever she meets at the ball will be the one that works out. And And I mean, the king himself said that, like, you know, that's what happened with him and Ophelia. He met her at the ball, they hit it off, and seems like, you know, it's been a while now and they're still together and things are going great. But, like, yeah, there's a lot of pressure there because what happens if it doesn't work out? And I'm sure, like, from what we've seen of the family, that if she's just like, this isn't working out for me, they'll be like, okay, we're gonna just quietly wave him off and let you do your thing. But yeah, no, she's absolutely right to be thinking about these things, is I guess what I'm saying. Alright. Lucette, meanwhile, does not have any of this context or really much emotional intelligence at all, so unshockingly has nothing to say in response to Emmeline's concerns. So, back to the game. Emmeline, I don't know how I'm supposed to marry someone I barely even know. Is this really what it means to be the crown princess? Lucette, isn't this precisely what you wanted? Emmeline, excuse me? Lucette, when your mother married the king, you became a princess. You went from rags to riches overnight. I cannot keep the bitterness from my voice when I speak. Out loud. Your life is playing out like Cinderella's, is it not? All you are missing is the glass slippers, and even then I'm sure the king could arrange for a pair. I cannot understand why you are so unhappy. Emmeline. Oh, Emmeline, tears in her eyes. Neither can I. Oh, Emmeline, please find someone better to talk to than Lucette. It's fine, it's fine. Emmeline turns away from me to face the throne once more, and in the sun that streams through the windows, I see something shining on her cheeks. Lucette, thinking to herself, is she crying? Emmeline, I am so ungrateful. Oh, precious. Sorry, I'm just like, precious Babby. You were not ungrateful. This is a very reasonable thing to be stressed about. Alright, Emmeline. Lucette, what would you do? Lucette, what? Emmeline, if you were in my place, if you became crown princess overnight, would you go through with the ball? For the sake of Angiel's tradition? For the sake of your role? Lucette, I would never do anything so worthless. Lucette, thinking to herself, the king never brought the subject up with me. He most likely knew I would have refused. Emmeline suddenly pats her cheeks and turns to me, a wry smile on her face. I assume when they say pats her cheeks, they mean that thing that they do in anime where it's just like, just kind of smacking yourself a little bit in the face to sort of clear your thoughts, I guess. Emmeline, I could do with some fresh air. Shall we go to my friend's shop in town? We have only just exited the throne room when Emmeline stops short and I almost bump into her back. Emmeline, oh! Mithros. Oh, I remember Mithros. I remember him being a creepy creepster that even Lucette got real bad vibes from. And I say even Lucette. Lucette kind of got bad vibes from everybody. Thought poorly of everyone, because she was taught that way. But, like, she specifically had, like, creepy vibes off this guy. I also have creepy vibes off this guy. Alright, Mithros. Your Highness, what a pleasant... Oh, Sir Mithros abruptly stops to stare at me. Whatever Sir Mithros is, whether he is like a bad witch, a fairy, or just a person who's also cursed, he definitely immediately recognizes Lucette. Lucette, why is Sir Mithros looking at me so intently? Emmeline, is something the matter, Sir Mithros? Mithros, no, nothing at all, Your Highness. I'm just amused. Oh, I get all kinds of bad vibes from this guy. Lucette, thinking to herself, amused? Emmeline, oh, you haven't met my new maid. This is Lucette. Mithros, Lucette? There is something in Sir Mithros's gaze that I do not trust. The silence is stifling, so I curtsy at him. Lucette, Sir. Mithros, charming. Sir Mithros turns his attention back to Emmeline. Mithros, where are you off to on this pleasant day? Emmeline, oh, Oh, just off to visit a friend. Mithros. Make sure you bring your guards with you, Princess. Emmeline. Of course. Emmeline. I wonder what's taking him so long. Lucette. Silence. Emmeline decided to invite Rod to join us on her visit. One of the guards offered to get Rod for her, but he still has yet to return. Another stands with us by the gates, ready to escort us into town. Lucette thinking to herself, why does the king even keep these incompetent fools if they cannot find a single person? Oh, Lucette. Oh, Lucette. Have you considered how big the palace probably is? Probably not. Emmeline. Maybe we should go look for Rod. But then, what if he gets here as soon as we go searching for him? I sigh. Lucette. Out loud. I will go look for him. You can stay here. Emmeline. But you don't need to run errands for me. Lucette, thinking to herself, she has yet to ask me to do anything. What does she think a maid even does? I look at her solemnly, not answering her. Finally, she relents. Emmeline. Thank you, Lucette. Yeah, I do think Emmeline is going to be a very good influence on Lucette, because she is just nice for no reason, and eventually, and she obviously is not, I mean, she was not born at royalty, so she's not used to the idea of ordering maids around, so I think she's kind of treating it as, oh, if I'm obligated to have this maid follow me around, I guess I will just be friends with her. Which, I mean, honestly, I think that's kind of precious, but I think it's cute that Emmeline is, like, awkward about even asking maids to do any basic errands. And it makes a lot of character sense. Alright, Emmeline. Thank you, Lucette. I incline my head just slightly before walking off. Lucette, thinking to herself, I feel like a babysitter. I cannot believe I have to search for Rod. This is only slightly better than being dragged around by that broom. I turn around the corner and nearly bump into someone. I take a few steps back just in time. Aw, Fritz. I like Fritz a lot, and I look forward to getting to the point where I'm running his route. Fritz. Oh! Wait. That implies that Fritz has something going on, because he immediately recognizes Lucette as well. His is one of the locked routes because it's one of the two more spoilery ones, but yeah, I look forward to seeing what all is going on in his route, and with him. But that will not be this go through for. We are following Rod's route for now. Alright, Fritz. Princess? I look up in shock. Fritz's surprise mirrors my own. Fritz. Where have you been? I've been looking for you everywhere. He pauses to stare at my clothing. Out loud. Why are you wearing a maid's uniform? Lucette. Fritz, you remember who I am? Ah, Fritz. I would never forget you, Princess Lucette. But it does seem like I am the only one who remembers you. What is going on, Princess? Lucette, thinking to herself. The only people who remember me are the witches, fairies, and... Out loud. Fritz, are you... I stop when I hear the sound of approaching footsteps. Fritz turns at the sound and then stoops low into a formal bow when he sees Rod. Fritz. Your Highness. Rod's impassive face twists with annoyance when he sees me. Rod does not even acknowledge Fritz as he walks past him to stop in front of me. Rod. Shouldn't you be attending my sister? Fritz. I don't understand. Prince Rod, do you know why the princess is dressed like this? Rod. Shock. Rod is clearly just as surprised as I am that Fritz remembers me. Rod, out loud. You recognize her? Fritz. You remember the princess too? Rod. Silence. Fritz. But if you knew, why didn't you say anything when she first went missing? And can someone explain to me why she's attending to Princess Emmeline? This is... Lucette. Fritz. I cut him off before he can ask any more questions. I feel Rod's gaze on my back as I turn to look at Fritz. Out loud. No more questions. Fritz. But princess... Lucette. Right now, I am a palace maid. Fritz. A what? Lucette. It is a long story, and I have no time to explain now, so do not ask. Fritz is clearly discontent. He seems to struggle for a few moments before he finally sighs and nods. Out loud. Yes, Your Highness. Lucette, thinking to herself. Though it is nice to hear someone here speak my title, it will not do if Fritz calls me that on accident. Out loud. It is just Lucette for now. Fritz. But... I turn to face Rod. Lucette, out loud. Emmeline is waiting. Rod. What? Lucette, thinking to herself. The guard could not even deliver her message? Fritz, out loud. Where are you going? Lucette. Emmeline wants to visit her friend's shop in town, and she wants you to go with us, Rod. I feel like I did the wrong voice for Lucette there. Oh, sorry, I only just noticed the chat. What happened to Rumpel? He's just living at the March End. There was a point where, I don't know if you were here earlier, but there was a point where I was able to actually select a route. And so I picked Rod's because that's the story order. Rumpel's is the third. So I assumed that Rumpel... So because I'm following Rod's route, Lucette is now at the palace, and so she's not probably going to see much of the people that are at the March End. So I assume Rumpel probably won't show up for most of the rest of this arc. But once I'm done with Rod's route, I'll do Karma's, and then he'll probably show up more in that, and then I will actually do Rumpel's route. But for now, he's just at the March End, just chilling, as far as I'm aware. I think he's, like, since he has no memories, he's just living there like they offered to Lucette. Yeah, no problem. I am very open to people asking questions. Like, anytime you're, like, confused on a point or can't remember something, like, feel free to ask. I may not always see it, like, immediately, but as soon as I see someone's asked a question in chat, I'll address it. So. Alright. So, Lucette. Emmeline wants to visit her friend's shop in town, and she wants you to go with us, Rod. Fritz. Town? Lucette, thinking to herself. Ordinarily, I would not mind Fritz joining us, but right now he might just be unnecessary company. He may very well give me away. Rod barely wants to speak with me when it is just the two of us. I doubt Fritz will make him more sociable. Fritz, out loud. I'm assuming that accompanying you is not an option at this point. Lucette. Yes. Fritz looks down for a moment before looking at Rod. Fritz. I'm sorry to ask you this of you, Your Highness, but since she refuses to let me do so, please look after Princess Lucette in my place. Rod. Silence. Lucette. Thinking to herself, ridiculous. I do not need to be cuddled. Oh, Lucette. Lucette, who still has not learned what kindness is, or why people other than her passed away mother might care about her, is just completely unable to see Lucette. This precious boy is just very worried about you, and he cares about you, and it is not coddling, it is concern. Oh, it's fine. Alright. Lucette, continuing to think to herself. Even if I did, Rod couldn't care less if I am hurt. Rod. I will do my best, Sir Fitzgerald. Lucette. Shock. Thinking to herself, I cannot tell if he is being genuine or not. Fritz bows to the both of us. Fritz, out loud. Stay safe, Lucette. He caught himself. And you, Your Highness. Rod turns and begins to walk away without another word. Rod, out loud. Come on. Rod is silent as we make our way back to the palace gates. I'm still thinking about what he said to Fritz earlier. Lucette, thinking to herself. Why would Rod agree to Fritz's request? Because he just wanted him to leave? I stare at Rod's back as he walks in front of me. Lucette, thinking to herself. Sometimes I cannot figure out what he is thinking. Emmeline. Rod, Lucette! Emmeline beams when she catches sight of us. Are you ready? Rod crosses his arms. He does not look very happy with his sister. Even though Rod is younger, I cannot help but think that he often sounds like the older of the two. Rod. I am busy, Emmeline. I can't keep dropping everything whenever you want to leave the palace. Emmeline. I'm sorry, but I just really needed some fresh air today. Rod. You can get plenty of fresh air on the palace grounds. Buddy, you're gonna get on Lusette's case for being mean to your sister, and then you're just gonna be mean to her. Emmeline. I felt I needed to be off the palace grounds. Emmeline's face drops as she looks down at the ground. Rod lets out an exasperated sigh before stepping inside the carriage. Rod. Come on. Emmeline. Rod? Rod. Just for an hour, okay? Oh my god, he's so tsundere. Oh no. I mean, we've mostly just seen the tsun and not too much of the dere, but I suspect we're going to see more and more as time goes on. Emmeline. Thank you! I soon come to realize that it is easier to walk around town now that everyone has forgotten who I am. The atmosphere around town feels brighter. All the spiteful stares are gone. Men. Princess Emmeline! Emmeline. Oh, how are you doing? Is your wife feeling better? Lucette, thinking to herself. Emmeline has responded to most of the people who know her. She seems to know a good majority of the people in town. I hang back as Emmeline speaks with the man. The night escort hovers somewhere nearby, watching for disturbances. Lucette. We are going to take longer than an hour if she continues like this. Rod. I'm not going to rush her. Lucette. Don't you need to return to the palace to continue whatever work it is that you were doing? Rod raises an eyebrow at me. Rod. I do have to get back to my studies, but my family always comes first. If this makes Emmeline happy, then I will gladly come with her to town. It's a small thing. Lucette, thinking to herself. Happy? I look more closely at Emmeline. Lucette, continuing to think to herself. She is smiling, but then again, she always smiles. Lucette, out loud. I do not understand. Rod. She is more at ease talking to the townspeople sometimes because they don't judge her. Lucette, thinking to herself. Why would she have to worry about being judged? It is clear that everyone adores her. Emmeline takes the man's hand in hers as she wishes him well. Rod points out the gesture. Rod. See that? That's goodness. You could learn something from my sister, Lucette. Lucette, thinking to herself. Is goodness pretending to be interested in the lives of strangers? Oh, cause see, she still thinks that Emmeline's kindness is just an act because she thinks that all kindness is an act, and I know I'm kind of repeating myself here, but Lucette, someday you need to realize that people can be kind for no other reason than to be kind. Emmeline eventually says her goodbyes before walking towards a familiar store. Lucette, thinking to herself. This is the toy shop I visited with Emmeline and Rod before. I glance at Rod and notice the expression on his face. Lucette, thinking to herself. He seems conflicted. But why? But before I can ask, Rod marches in front of me and decisively pushes open the door. When I enter, Emmeline is already hugging the shop girl, Viorica. Viorica? Viorica? I think I like Viorica better. Viorica. Emmeline, you look as beautiful as ever. Emmeline. Oh, please, I look the same. You, on the other hand. Emmeline steps back before nodding, a bright smile on her face. Emmeline. Being in love suits you. When's the wedding? Lucette, thinking to herself. Wedding? She's already engaged? I catch a small movement out of the corner of my eyes and turn to glance at Rod. I notice his fingers clench into a fist before he quickly hides his hand behind his back. Though his expression is as impassive as always, I notice a tenseness in his shoulders. Aw, did Rod have a crush on her and now she is engaged to someone else and now he is sad? It's okay, buddy. We're on your route right now, which means you have a new love interest coming soon. Though definitely at this stage in the route, if someone walked up to Rod and was like, "You're gonna be in a romantic relationship with Lucette," he'd be like, "I'm a what now?" It's fine. Though his expression is actually, I'm not going to reread that because that was already a tongue twister and I already read it. Viorica. Desimond and I haven't set a date yet, but it should be soon. Would you... Viorica trails off when she notices the rest of us. Viorica. Hello, Rod. Rod. Viorica. His tone is surprisingly static. Lucette thinking to herself. Last time he was here, I was sure he sounded friendlier. Viorica. So what can I help you with, Emmeline? Looking for another doll? Lucette thinking to herself. Another doll? But Emmeline is not interested in dolls. Emmeline. Oh no, I'm just here to see you. I can't stay for long since Rod has things to do. Rod. Emmeline, I'll wait for you outside. Emmeline. Oh, okay. Lucette thinking to herself. I know it is my job to follow Emmeline around, but I am not at all interested in hearing her talk to this girl. Does she even want me here? Oh, whoops. I didn't mean to click the log. I was trying to click the menu. That's my bad. I'm doing my thing. Okay, I think... Oh, I do realize I regret not putting a save at the beginning of this route, but it's fine. I'm not going to play it again. I think it's fine to overwrite the previous one, because I think that was... I made a good call on that choice, and I don't want to... I don't have too many save files. But it is definitely my policy to save at every choice, so... I feel like since I'm trying to... I feel like the obvious choice if you're trying to follow, like, the romantic route of a character is that you should go after the character that you're pursuing. But I feel like the better thing to do in this situation is stay with Emmeline. I'm pretty invested in, like, following the route to hopefully a good ending, so I'm gonna try the one that feels like the obvious choice for progressing the love plot. But if it feels like I got penalized for that, I might go back and redo it. Lucette thinking to herself, my time might be better spent trying to improve Rod's opinion of me. If I could get him to tell me precisely what I have done wrong, I can make up for it. I hope that would give me a good deed. I curtsy to the two girls. Lucette, out loud. Excuse me, Your Highness. I shall wait outside with Rod. I cough to clear my throat. With the prince. Good catch there. You almost covered yourself, Lucette. Emmeline. Okay, I won't be long. I move to stand next to Rod, who is leaning against the wall. Ah, I got a cut screen. Not a cut screen, but I got a, like, full screen image that feels like I was right to trust my instincts of this is probably how Otome games work. Or at least, I feel like if I got that nice little cut screen, it means that I probably made the right choice for progressing the route. Rod sighs in annoyance. Rod, why do you keep on following me? Lucette, tell me how to rectify whatever wrong I have done to your family. Rod, this again? I cannot help but scowl at Rod's answer. Lucette, you spout all this nonsense about goodness, but refuse to help me. How is that good? Rod, you haven't given me any reason to help you. Lucette, what? Rod, if you're not serious about genuinely learning how to be good, then I'm not interested in helping you. Lucette, thinking to herself, maybe I can catch him off guard by bringing up his response in the toy shop just now. Lucette, out loud. Fine, then I will make normal conversation. Who is Viorica to you? Oh, honey, that's not normal Lucette. I wouldn't quite go so far as to call that normal conversation. You did correctly catch that he was having a reaction. And, I mean, that's like something you would ask a friend, hey, what's going on with you and person that you just had the weird reaction to. But that's not a casual topic of conversation. That's fine, that's fine. It's a good thing for her to ask. Rod. Unsurprisingly. Shock. Lucette. Has she done something to hurt your family too? Rod. Viorica is a childhood friend. She is not like you at all. Lucette. Oh? Then why were you acting so cold to her? You obviously did not want to be inside the shop. Rod looks away from me and absently kicks a pebble on the ground. Rod. That is none of your business. I sigh, disappointed with Rod's reaction. Rod turns away from me as Emmeline exits the shop. Rod. Ready to go? Emmeline nods with a small smile. The two of us begin to make our way to the palace again. By the time we return to the palace, evening has fallen. Emmeline. I hope we're not late for dinner. The minute the carriage doors open, we are greeted by two familiar faces. Sir Alcaster and Sir Mithros stand before us. Alcaster. Princess Emmeline, Prince Rod, I was on my way to look for you when Sir Mithros informed me of your whereabouts. He glares at the knight escort, and the knight shrinks back. Sir Alcaster turns sharply to me afterwards, his eyes narrowed. Lucette thinking to herself, why is he looking at me like that? Or, alternately, why is he looking at me like that? But I wonder if Alcaster recognizes her too, and just isn't saying anything. Alcaster. It was getting late and the queen was worried. Emmeline. I'm so sorry. Mithros. Princess Emmeline, Prince Rod, it's almost time for dinner. Please let me escort you inside. Get heebie-jeebie vibes from him. Don't trust him for anything. Sir Mithros gestures for them to follow him. I am about to follow after them when Sir Alcaster suddenly moves to block my path. His eyes are cold. He opens his mouth to say something, but then closes it and shakes his head. Alcaster, out loud. You are dismissed, girl. You may go back to your quarters. Yep, I am very sure that he also recognizes Lucette and has made the same assumption that Rod did initially, that she's just here trying to take her place back. And probably doesn't like her very much. But, like, I do feel like people, I mean, I understand why people are assuming the worst of Lucette. She's never really given them a reason not to, but I feel bad for her, because in this case, no, actually, she's here trying to do good. She just doesn't really understand what that means, but she understands it enough to not be here to just try to take her place back, because that is not just not good, but actively bad, and I think she's at least aware of that much. Or at the very least, she is prioritizing breaking the curse over anything else at the moment, which is understandable. Lucette. But, Alcaster, that is an order. His gaze is piercing. Even when I was the princess, I was not able to stand up to that gaze. Lucette. Yes, sir. After dinner, I make my way back to the room assigned to me. As I walk down the hall, I notice Rod heading in my direction. Lucette. Rod? He suddenly grabs my arm and pulls me away down the hall. Lucette. Shock. Where are you taking me? Rod does not answer and just continues moving until we reach an unfamiliar door. Lucette. What is going on? Rod cuts me off by placing a finger on my lips. He looks around warily before finally pulling me in through the door with him. Lucette. This place. I'm gonna just say right now, it looks like a palace dungeon to me. I have heard of this place before, but I have never seen it. Oh, no, okay, apparently it's a secret passage. Lucette. Is this a secret passage that leads into town? Rod does not answer me. He simply keeps walking, and I see no other option but to trail after him. Lucette. How is it that you know this place? He still refuses to answer. Lucette. Are you deaf? Rod suddenly stops, and I bump into his back. I stumble back with a scowl. Rod. You ask too many questions. Lucette. Because you refuse to answer any of them. I mean, she makes a valid point. I glare back at him until Rod makes an exasperated sound. Rod. Lady Parfait is the one who told me about this passage. It makes sneaking out of the palace easier. Lucette. Parfait? Rod. She did not give me any explanation as to how she knew of this place. There are only meant to be 2 copies of the key. The king has one and Sir Alcaster has the other. Lucette. Then why do you have a key? Don't tell me you stole it from the king. Rod. I am not a thief. Lady Parfait also has a copy. She saw fit to provide me with a key for my own use. That's really interesting that Parfait knows about this passage and has a copy of the key. Like, intriguing. Lucette. What? How does Parfait have a key to this place? Rod. You'll have to ask her that yourself. Once we step into town, I realize where it is we are headed. We are going back to the Marchette. Delora is the first person we see as soon as we enter the Marchette. Delora. Well, well, look what the cat dragged in. Lucette. Delora, you... Rod's glare silences me. He steps forward and points back at me, gaze icy. Rod. She is not staying at the palace. Lucette. What? Delora raises an eyebrow. Delora. Why's that? She works there now. Rod. I do not know what game you were playing, but I will not be a part of it. Delora. Excuse me? This is not a game. Rod. I don't want you meddling in my life as you meddled with hers. The room's temperature drops several degrees. Delora stares at Rod, her expression suddenly lacking any emotion. Delora. With all due respect, Your Highness, I do not want to meddle with your wallowing. But just because you do not wish to break your curse doesn't mean that others shouldn't want to either. You should be humbled that our princess here thought you would be able to help her. Rod raises an eyebrow. Rod. Where is Lady Parfait? Delora. Of course you want to talk to Parfait, because she puts things nicely. Fine, I'll fetch her for you. Delora curtsies as she sweeps out of the room. Rod sighs. He clearly looks irritated, but he doesn't put a voice to his agitation. Now that we're alone in the empty room, the silence is deafening. And so I ask him the question that has bothered me since we came here. I feel like those are both valid questions, but we're doing our traditional... I'm gonna make a new save. I don't really have a good reason for why I'm not overwriting the previous save, but I'm not, so... Alright, I think the better question is, why do you not want to break your curse? Of, why do you want to be out of the palace, or why do you not want to break your curse? And of course I'm thinking in terms of what will help me progress along the route of this, the hopeful, happy and romantic route for Rod. Yeah, I feel like, why do you want me out of the palace is very self-centered, whereas it might even surprise Rod that Lucette is not asking the self-centered question. So, Rod, why do you not want to break your curse? Rod, I don't need to explain myself to you. Lucette, do you even know how to break your curse? Rod, I do. Lucette, so why are you not doing anything? Rod, it's none of your business. I do not realize the anger inside of me at first, and then I notice that my hands are fists and that I am shaking. Lucette, you are angry at me for treating your family with unkindness, and yet you do not treat me with any respect or kindness either. Rod, excuse me? I realize that this is the angriest I have felt in a long time, and it makes words fall out of my mouth. Lucette, you are guilty of the same disrespect you hold me accountable for. We are both being cruel to family, aren't we? Rod's eyes are ablaze as he stalks towards me. He stops right in front of me, his mouth pressed into a firm line. Rod, as you are so fond of telling Emmeline, we do not share any blood. The only thing pulling us together is the king, and you do not share his morals. I don't love the fact that this is the stepbrother plot. I would like to just have a little moment where I'm trying to mostly ignore it, and so I don't really want to draw attention to it. The fact that this romance route is with her stepbrother, because I am generally a little uncomfortable with that, but I want to follow the story, so I'm trying to just sort of bite my lip and ignore it. And so I'm always just a little when the game sees fit to remind me that they are, in fact, step-siblings. But yes, we're going to go back to trying to pretend that that's not a thing. And, like, no offense to anyone who isn't bothered by that. You know, people have different preferences, and I know it's a fictional world, and you can like whatever you'll want in fiction. It's just makes me a little... Alright. Rod. I'm not... Yeah, I already read that. Remember this, Lucette. You will never be part of my family. And I will never see you as a sister. I mean, good, because I'm trying to follow your romance route, and it would be really uncomfortable if you thought of Lucette as a sister while I'm trying to go down the romance route. At least, for me, it would be. Rod storms out of the reception area just as Delora enters. Delora. Sorry, looks like Parfait wasn't in. She pauses, then gives me a wry smile. Delora. Seems this partnership is going well. I throw my hands up in anger. Lucette. He is infuriating! Delora. Not as helpful as you thought? I was surprised you were asking for his help in the first place. Lucette. All I've been doing today is following around Emmeline, and he still finds reason to snap at me. In his eyes, I can do nothing right, even though I am making an honest effort to break my curse. Delora eyes me as she slides down into a chair. Delora. Has he told you anything about his curse? Lucette. Only that he knows how to break it. Delora sighs. Delora. Boys can be so secretive about the silliest things. Okay, I'm gonna do a big eye roll anytime something makes a statement about boys or about girls, because no statement applies to everyone of a gender. Just saying. Delora. Rod has been aware of how to break his curse from the very beginning. Lucette. Then why hasn't he broken it? Delora. I have no idea. I think the only other person who knows the full terms and conditions of Rod's curse is Parfait. Lucette. Parfait? Delora. Parfait has known Rod for a while. She convinced him to keep coming to the Martin, even after he gave up on breaking his curse. Parfait also thinks that working with you will convince Rod to try finding another way to break his curse. Lucette. Another way? Delora. Don't ask me. I don't know much about his curse either. But if you keep trying, you might convince Rod to talk. Lucette. I doubt that very much. It seems that all I am doing is convincing Rod that I do not deserve to break my own curse. Delora looks at me curiously for a few moments. Then she grins. Delora. I have an idea. Lucette. If it is another terrible idea. Delora. Oh no, this one's much better. I'll just stick around with you. You know, watch out for you. Lucette. What? Thinking to herself. Delora, watch out for me? She's gonna be the doll again. That makes sense. I'm surprised when Delora suddenly stands before me in her doll form. Delora. There's no way you and Rod are going to sort yourselves out without some kind of help, so I'll be tagging along. It's much easier when I'm travel-sized. Lucette. Why do I feel like she'll only make things worse? Delora. Come on, then. Delora somehow manages to jump into the front pocket of my apron, which is thankfully large enough to fit her doll body. Delora. Let's go find us a prince and get ourselves back to the palace. So I'm gonna end there either way, because I was gonna do two. So my goal is to do 2 chapters at a time. So which seems to be working out to in the realm of. I mean, this time it was a little under 2 hours, but so my goal is to try to stream for in the realm of 2 hours, which seems to map to 2 chapters, is basically, so it's kind of going that direction. But I did notice I didn't seem to get any points for the choice I made with Rod, so I'm actually gonna go back and see what happens if I do it the other way. Because I do not plan to replay these routes, so I'm gonna just get the ending I get and then move on to the next one. So we're gonna save here because it's, you know, the beginning of chapter 4. And then we're gonna go try that. Oh wait, no, don't overwrite the save. That was the saving. Now we're going to load. We are going to load this save and see what happens if I choose the other answer. Alright, so now we are going to ask Rod, instead of why do you not want to break your curse, we are instead going to ask him, why do you want me out of the palace? Rod, the further away you are from my family, the better. I glare at him. Lucette, your reaction is completely unwarranted. I'm trying to make up for what I have done in the past. Rod, only because you're being forced to. Oh, okay, so this was the correct choice. Alright, so this is going to be the actual choice made. So the other scene was a what-if scenario, and we are going to progress along the route, assuming that she never asked that question, and instead asked this question. Lucette, why should that make any difference? Besides, I'm still willing to help you break your curse, even though it appears you do not want to. And then we're gonna have probably a repeat of a lot of that argument. Yeah, I'm gonna skip the stuff that we just watched. Yeah, this is the same conversation. It was just that was the better question. Alright, I might do a thing where I try, No, I was thinking maybe I could, like, go back and just play this through and then edit the videos later when I post on YouTube so this is the only version you see. But, nah. Alright, so we're just redoing it. That same argument that she had where she got very upset and accused him of treating her with the same cruelty that he accused her of treating him. So that seems like that all happens the same way. It's just a difference of, instead of asking, why don't you want to break your curse, I had Lucette ask, why do you want me out of the palace? And that seems to have been the better choice. So, yeah, we're gonna... I think it wouldn't give me the skip option if it wasn't exactly the same as what we already watched. Yeah. Okay, and so it changes, the other thing it changes here, so they have that argument, Rod storms off, and then in the conversation with Delora, she asks, has he told you anything about his curse? Okay, sorry, I'm looking at chat. Seems like Rod doesn't really like Lucette, but it might be right this way because many great and strong relationships start from hate and opposition from each other. I've definitely heard that, like, I would definitely say that this is going to fulfill the trope referred to as enemies to lovers, which is, in many cases, a fun trope. Like, I do really like that as a trope. I kind of like watching, it's like, alright, we're being super antagonistic, we realize that actually we like each other more than we think we do, or we get along better than we think we do, and okay, fine, we're kind of begrudgingly friends, and oh, maybe some of that energy was unresolved, like, I'm gonna call it romantic tension, and hey, maybe actually we should date. Yes, exactly. Alright, so we're picking back up from right after Rod and Lucette's argument, after Rod stormed off and Delora came in. So, Delora, has he told you anything about his curse? Lucette, nothing useful. Delora sighs. And then it's the boys can be so secret. Okay. And then this is going to be that same conversation where Delora offers to come to the palace. And back to chapter 4. Sorry for the jerky nature of that. I will try to keep that to a minimum. But as I said before, I'm very invested in playing the good ending, so if I pick a choice and it turns out to not get me the points, I will absolutely go back and replay it. That's how I roll. So, fair warning for anyone watching future streams. Like, I'm gonna do my best to avoid that happening often, just because I know it was like, it's kind of awkward and jerky to have to like replay bits that are very slightly different, but right, so that said, here we are back at chapter 4, and I'm gonna save the game again because I want to keep that altered choice. And yeah, that'll be it for today's stream. So my next stream in the Cinderella Phenomenon series is going to be 2 weeks from now, once again at 6 p.m. EST. And then the week after that, I've said this a few places, and I want to make sure I also say it in my streams. I'm actually going to change that schedule. So starting November 15th. So for now, I'm sticking with the every 2 weeks at 6 p.m. But starting as of November 15th, I'm going to switch it up, and I'm going to try doing every week. And I'm going to start it at 4 p.m. 4 p.m. EST. So, but for now, there's still a 2-week gap. The next stream will be on November 11th. Oh, thank you. Next stream will be on November 11th, starting at 6 p.m. EST, and then the one after that will be November 15th, starting at 4 p.m. EST. And I'm going to have this all up. I set up a Twitter, you can check it out. The link is in my bio, and I post other things there too, but I do post about my streaming schedule, and also about like when I'm going to stream like impromptu things. I'll usually post it a couple days in advance there, and I also have a calendar now up on my my main Twitch page, so you can check there for these. Obviously I have it like scheduled way in advance, but also for the kind of random impromptu streams I do try to schedule those at least a couple days in advance, and so those will also be on my calendar, and as I said, mentioned on my Twitter, so consider following those things or checking back. And thank you so much everyone who watched this live and who watches this later, not live. I appreciate you all very much, and I'm really enjoying this game, and I look forward to returning to it in 2 weeks. And I hope to see some of you then.